Cigarette Podcast with your host, Hussein Talib. In this episode, I am speaking with Luke Lentz to talk about building brands and have impactful entrepreneurship. Luke is a serial entrepreneur, founded his first e-commerce business at age 16, achieving a 375% ROI in 90 days. Now the CEO of High Key Enterprises, a PR company specializing in digital branding. Luke is a prominent figure in social media and press relations, advocating for entrepreneurship and its impact on our lives. So, Luke, welcome to this episode of the Success Secret podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me here. Looking forward to this and looking forward to giving the audience a ton of value today.
Awesome to have you here with us in this episode. So, first of all, because this is the Success Secret podcast, I want to know, and apparently you had early business e-commerce at age 16, which is like great achievement, I would say, and it's impressive. I want to know from you, what do you, or how would you define success personally and professionally in business, and what would you see people around you define success as, and do you agree or disagree with that?
Great question. My definition of success has evolved over time. Where when I first started in business and was first accumulating some initial revenue and money inside the business, I saw success as an end destination. So I would set milestones in terms of goals, usually equated to a monetary side of things in terms of, say, making $1 million the next year or generating this much income within 5 years, things that had end goals in mind and end milestones. And so I considered success in my mind of being able to reach that end milestone. But over the course of time, I've realized that it's the wrong way to look at success, and it's the wrong way to look at life in general of the end goal, because you're supposed to find happiness and fulfillment through the journey, and the actual working towards something great is the thing that gives you so much happiness and fulfillment. And the end destination actually should really never come. You should have goals and missions and a purpose in life that are really impossible to achieve and that you're constantly striving for, and that you find happiness and fulfillment through the journey. And so, how I find success now is really through, and how I monitor success is, how balanced is my life? How much am I in balance in terms of my fitness regimen? How much am I in balance with my diet? How much am I in balance compared to the work that I'm putting in and the amount of energy that I'm putting into my work compared to how much time I'm spending with my family? And so a lot of the way that I judge my success is based off of the balance that I have in my life.
Hmm, cool. That's very important. Now, in regards to entrepreneurship and business, like at age 16, that's pretty early. So, can you tell us a little bit about that story? Why did you start? How did it started? What did you see, or who did you learn from? And specifically, business and entrepreneurship is it's kind of maybe hard. I would say it's not. I don't want to say hard, but it's different. It's, let's say it's different, right? And there are some certain sacrifices. So, can you expand on this?
Yeah, for sure. Entrepreneurship in general is probably one of the hardest things that you could potentially go through in life. And that's why I suggest that if you want to take a leap into entrepreneurship, you should, because even if you fail, you'll be learning so many invaluable lessons that you can take through into your entire journey through life. And so it's not even necessarily the actual aspect of, succeeding, quote unquote, with entrepreneurship. It's the actions of doing it and what you're learning from it, no matter what. Like if you're going into entrepreneurship and you full on go through with it, you will take away so many things into every aspect of your life. And so when I first started into entrepreneurship, it was in grade 10 of high school when we first started up our e-commerce company, and we were the first ever wireless earbuds to be sold across North America. Pretty much there wasn't really anything else on the market. There was no AirPods at the time, none of those. And we saw the need for wireless earbuds. So we sourced wireless earbuds from China, wholesale purchased them with the money that we had in our bank account. And it was a great product timing fit because there was no other products on the marketplace like us. So we just did some guerrilla marketing on Instagram with posting content that was very viral, and we placed our products in it, and it scaled up really quickly. I think the biggest thing with there were some major takeaways I had with entrepreneurship at a young age. I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur my entire life. I really thought that I was going to go down a traditional career of basically go to high school, going to university, probably in the finance sector, and then maybe get like some sort of accounting job. That's how I saw my life, even after starting the business, because I didn't see myself as a creative person, as an entrepreneurial person. And I think a lot of people could potentially relate to this in the audience if you're listening, in terms of not necessarily you being in a place of being like, I don't see myself as a creative individual. I don't see myself as a person who could potentially start up a business and run a business. And I think what it was is a few things. With the school side of things, I think school suppressed a lot of my creativity. School makes you go in a very linear direction. It has everything just cut out for you. When you take tests and exams, it's for you to study material to regurgitate on an exam. And there's really only one answer at the end of every single problem that you're given across the courses. And so it doesn't really leave any room for out of the box thinking. And so your entire high school and university experience is pushing you out of this creative zone where every single person has the capability of going towards. And so I think that I was very blessed with being able to tap back into that creative element, start up my entrepreneurial journey at a very young age. And it got me out of the school system and got me to where I am today.
Yeah, cool. That's amazing. Like I think it's very important for young men and young women to start thinking and being more creative and putting, if they have an idea, to start implementing, because that's the most important thing. It does not matter if the idea fails or the business fails, because we will learn from it. So you mentioned guerrilla marketing and social media. So when we talk about building your brand then and now, what is like branding has changed over the years that you have worked with? Do you think there's some kind of a change? And what do you mean when we talk about what do we mean when we talk about guerrilla marketing exactly?
For sure. So I'll break into both of those questions. So branding over the past 8 years, 8 years is how long I've been in the business journey for. Branding across the past 8 years have changed tremendously in terms of connecting with an audience and what you need to be doing to connect with an audience. So back in 2016, Instagram was like the starting phases of TikTok, honestly, where there was so much viral capabilities. And as long as you post entertaining content, it was super easy to go viral. And so we basically started off with creating a meme page on Instagram where we were just posting any sort of viral content that was relatable to a high school or college demographic. And that content within that demographic went massive. And so like the thing that has stayed true over the entire time and over the past, ever since social media has existed, is having a target audience that you're going after, the aspect of niching down, because the more specific your target audience is that you're going after, the easier it is to create content that, appeals to their pain points or is entertaining specifically contextually to them, which makes it so much easier for you to go viral. The things that have changed are several things. Over the past 8 years, people are fed up with any sort of call to actions. As soon as somebody gets a slight whiff of you trying to sell them anything, they immediately disconnect from who you are. And it's because they've been pitched so heavily on social media. There's ads that have been bombarded across all social media platforms. And so really, you have to build a connection with your audience in ways outside of pitching, and for them naturally to ask about your offer, and then you pitch to them once they're asking about it. The second thing is the aspect of authenticity with your brand, where this wasn't really as an effect many years ago, but now people are craving authenticity. And it's kind of like the word now with social media, is that people want to see who you legitimately are. You see this so much with like TikTok videos. Is the most viral TikTok videos are just people being themselves, being authentic, showcasing everyday fails, showcasing who they really are, because it's relatable, and people love the aspect of being relatable and not watching content that's completely out of touch. And so when we manage our clients' social media accounts, we try and make sure that they're coming across as authentic as possible, sharing stories that are actually relatable to their target audience. And so those are some key takeaways in terms of how branding has changed.
That's very important. So now, guerrilla marketing, what is that exactly? Like, are we talking about social media, uh, organic? Are we talking about ads in social media? What is it? And do you think it's important? And after that, we can go more deeper into branding. And you talked about authenticity, which is very important because nowadays, when we talk about a brand, we talk about the anyone showing up being authentic. That's very important because people relate to people either because they are in the same situation maybe, or they learn from regular people. You don't see the much, let's say, made up things, which is like mostly people post about their successes, but also to post about the stories and the failures. Maybe that's very important.
For sure, for sure. So with guerrilla marketing, I see traditional guerrilla marketing as in the physical sense when people used to like knock on the doors, where people still knock on doors or like send out postcards, where it's very manual labor with not a high hard cost. And so that same guerrilla marketing has come to the digital side of things. And so the things that we did with guerrilla marketing is, for example, we would reach out to influencers of decent sized pages in niche followings. So they had extremely strong followings, but they say had under 250,000 followers. And so we were able to reach out to all of them over Instagram DMs. We had an extremely good product. And so we simply explained to them that we would send them a product in exchange for some type of promotion without us having to pay them. And so I see that as a component of guerrilla marketing because it was a very low cost because all we had was the cost of, the actual product itself, which wasn't anything substantial. And then in exchange, we would get content that we could retarget with content for our page, and then also them promoting to their audience, which was massive for us. And then the other aspect of guerrilla marketing that we've done ever since the beginning and all the way until now is we would do things like, for example, giveaways on our page where we would flood people either to an email list or we would flood people into our Instagram DMs. And so we've found over the past 8 years that giveaways is the best possible way to incentivize somebody to take action in a certain way. Take action on going towards a YouTube video, to watch a YouTube video, to sign up for a newsletter, to check out any piece of content, because we talked about pretty much giving value is the best possible way that you can grow an audience. And there's no better way to give value than a giveaway in itself. The third type of guerrilla marketing is in the Instagram DMs, where we would outreach to potential customers. We've used this technique more now with our public relations firm, but it's actually our number one sales technique, where we generate the most leads through the Instagram DMs and mass outreaching to thousands of people per day.
Cool. So that's, I would say, maybe more of push, I would say, maybe then also pull. So when we talk about DMing, we talk about pushing to certain things and reaching out to people, and pulling, like when talking about like being authentic and also showing certain things and stories and adding value to other people. And they would ask you certain things, like if you have a course or if you have whatever it is that you sell, instead of pushing the CTA, the call to action that you mentioned earlier. So now building the brands online, how important it is to have this kind of authenticity in socials, because because businesses cannot survive without social, I guess, nowadays, right?
Yeah, 100%. You see this even with businesses trying to be as authentic as possible, where people don't want to follow business accounts because business accounts have zero relatability. And so you see the top business accounts on TikTok posting hilarious content, sometimes not even to do with their actual product. Like you see top companies, for example, on TikTok posting stuff about their staff, their culture, that's relatable content inside their business that has nothing to do with their product. You've seen top businesses like BKF, Burger King, and Wendy's on Twitter posting outlandish. Have you seen any of that? Them responding to comments on Twitter in a super outlandish, like super way where people will screenshot and be like, I can't believe Burger King said this type of stuff. Like they were going back on people and saying ridiculous stuff. And it's so cool because it has nothing to do with their product, but it increases their brand because people are able to see them as a relatable company, because it's like, wow, like that's hardcore. That's something that I would want to say type thing. And so personal brands are even better for that because it's a person, and you're able to build so many relatability points if you share every single aspect that makes up who you are: your lessons, your values, your beliefs, all your struggles, everything that you've overcome to get to where you are. And we're living in a world where knowledge is unlimited and information is unlimited because we have access to Google, YouTube, ChatGPT, now AI. And so there's unlimited information there. And so the way that you can convey your own unique information is by sharing your specific stories and then showcasing the lessons from those specific stories, because nobody else can replicate the specific stories that you have going through life. And people connect with stories extremely well. And so through my content, I try and share stories and then have the major takeaways of lessons from that.
Mm. You mentioned something very important, like information knowledge is basically out there with Google, YouTube, and AI specifically. Now Google basically it's AI with the algorithms and search engines, but now more advanced things with ChatGPT and creating content with images, videos, and text. It's much easier for people to get their content out, but we need to distinguish between what content is and basically who does the content, and specifically like I mentioned, telling certain things or telling stories and being authentic on it, because eventually, like, this is why it's important. We see a lot of people have talk about the same things over and over and over again, but some people like this one, some people like that one. So depending on things, people would relate to you personally, which is very important nowadays. And this is might be actually the only competitive advantage that any of us have nowadays, I guess, with social especially.
100%. We're dealing with, for example, every single product based business out there is competing with Walmart, Amazon, these massive conglomerate companies that are pushing you into becoming a commodity. Where what a commodity is basically you're competing solely based off of price. And so if you are selling a product that's on Amazon or Walmart, they are constantly pushing you down with their economies of scale, where they're doing so much volume where they can have the thinnest margins and push you out of business by constantly pushing your prices down because you're in competition with them. So the only way you can separate yourself from those massive competitors is by creating a brand around your business, creating a personal brand so that you're not competing on price anymore. People are buying into the brand. That's why the conglomerate of the people, of the person who owns all of the designer brands, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, all of those, the owner of all those brands is the richest person in the entire world. And the reason for that is because he's mastered branding. He's mastered being able to, for people to completely disregard price because of the association they have when they buy the product. And
Mm.
that's the most valuable thing. What branding is it's what third parties, what other people are talking about you and your company when you're not around. And so if people aren't talking about you and your company when you're not around, then you don't have any brand. But if people are talking negatively when you're not around about you and your brand, then you have a negative brand presence. And so you want to be getting your brand out there, but also be crafting it in a positive direction.
That's very important.
Mhm.
Now, you spoke about CTA, which is, I assume, a lot of us would do online, because whether it's text or spoken or whatever, because we want certain people to do certain actions to get on our mailing list or whatever, get this freebie or whatever. So now we talked about removing that and doing the telling stories and sharing things and experiences with others. So how would you get people and you businesses, or let's say leads or customers, into the business, and how would you frame the CTA now, not directly, but let's say indirectly, right? How would you
This
frame
is
it?
Yeah, this is the easiest takeaway for the entire audience. And if you're going to write anything down, it would be this. It's give value in public, pitch in private.
Mm.
And so all of your pitching, all of your call to actions need to be done in private. That's what we do. We send out thousands of Instagram DMs per day with pitches, but that's all in private. Nobody public sees that. And then everything we post publicly on our personal brands is literally just giving away as much value as possible. The content we put on our YouTube, we don't have any really call to actions besides commenting, liking, subscribing, no call to actions to make any sort of money. We want to give out as much value as possible. So people are like, wow, it would be ridiculous for me not to work with this person.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, so basically, when you do the call to actions in private, you basically interacting with one-on-one person. You are so basically helping them and adding value in advance. And then when you reach out, or if they reach out, you would have more conversation about certain things that will lead to a call to action, which is like this is what a business wants to keep going and survives and make more money, and at the same time giving value to other people and the solution and the resolution that they are looking for, right?
Exactly.
Definitely. So this is like basically win-win situation for all, and it's easier with not just like selling to the, let's say, to the masses, which is like would not work, I guess. I would say would not work to the masses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So throughout your business and career through these years, so now what is the worst advice that you have ever received and someone told you to take action on and you regretted it?
Oh, that's a hard one. Worst advice I've ever received. Probably the worst advice that I've received isn't from mentors that I have, but from social media content from very high level business owners, where they would say when you're starting up in business and you're going all in on business at the beginning, eat like shit and treat your diet like shit. Where you've seen like gurus, for example, or like coaches like Gary Vee, for example, he's big on that, where he says, listen, when you're just starting up, hustle hard, live in your parents' basement, and eat ramen noodles every single day, and you have such a low overhead. And I'm literally the complete opposite of that. I'm so about my diet. I've been about my diet the entire time because having your diet right, having your sleep schedule right allows you to have so much more focus, so much more creative energy and output during the day. And then things like, for example, living in your parents' basement doesn't really motivate you that hard. And so I'm all about moving out of your parents' house as much as possible, putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation where you have more responsibility in your life and you have to pay for things like a roof over your head. So it's motivating every single day. You wake up with an external motivating factor where it's like, I never want to move back into my parents' house. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure I succeed in this. And so I'm a big believer in the exact opposite of that entire mentality.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
think, for example, he's a great guy, but the advice would be like generic in general, and everyone has it. We all have all our own certain specific situation, like you mentioned, the CD. It also applies to this. I think we all have some certain individual circumstances and lives and businesses, so not everything could be the same, but the idea of things could apply in general. So, do you think that is the best moment for you, or let's say the proudest moment for yourself?
The proudest moment I've had was it was back in 2020, and we just started a new branch to our public relations firm where we partnered with celebrities. And so we kind of pioneered the space of collaborating with celebrities for giveaways. And so what we did is we partnered up, paid a celebrity a large upfront amount of money, and that celebrity would post an Instagram post of saying, "Hey, I'm giving away this Tesla, or I'm giving away these designer bags. All you have to do is go to this list of sponsors and follow all of them. And so we would basically partner with the celebrity, we would do the giveaway, and then we would sell sponsorship spots that all of them would gain followers from. And there's this one campaign that we did with Kevin Hart during COVID. And it was for sure probably one of the most proudest moments I've had for myself of, watching Kevin Hart's stand-up comedy and being like, this guy's the funniest guy ever. Like I find so much humor in him, seeing this guy as just an icon and being like, wow, we've gone to the point of being able to partner with him and being in direct contact with him, which was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, I
Mhm.
guess. Yeah, but my favorite comedian is George Carlin. I don't know if you know George Carlin. He passed away, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
I do know him. I didn't watch him though.
I think
Mhm.
he's cool. So, so these guys learned from him, I guess. But anyway,
Yeah.
so what do you think are the best tools, resources, or books in your opinion?
That's a huge question in terms of everything. I'll go through books first, and then we can go through other things. First business book I ever read was Rich Dad Poor Dad. That opened my mind up in terms of the mentality that I grew up with my parents, and drew a direct correlation with what it looks like with rich parents and the mentalities that they grew up with. It also really differentiated between assets and liabilities, which was a great frame of mind to go off of at a young age. That was just all around amazing. Then I got into reading other just generalized business and mindset books. The next one was Think and Grow Rich. That was actually probably my favorite book to date and has been one of the most impactful. It basically just goes through, manifesting things into your future, but manifesting intentionally. And so it's not just aimless manifestation, like I want to reach this goal. It's very methodically broken down. It's kind of like a scientific formula of what you have to do. And just a quick summary, if anybody is trying to have like long-term goals, a huge part of Think and Grow Rich is basically you have an exact milestone of what you're trying to achieve. Usually it's financially based. For me, it was I want a private jet. And then you have an exact timeline associated with that goal. So for me, it's I wanted a private jet before my 30th birthday. And then what you have to do is you have to say exactly what you're going to give up in order to obtain that goal, because nothing comes free in this life. And so the thing that I wanted to give up was basically my time, because I think that's where my headspace was back then. Like the best thing that I could give up is my time. And so I said that I would give up, I think like it was around 60 hours per week. And then you break down the top 3 things that you're going to be doing over the course of that time in order to obtain that. So it gets you in a frame of mind of reverse engineering that goal. So those are definitely 2 books that were extremely impactful in my life.
Hmm, cool. So now, what would be your last tip or takeaway for our conversation here?
What do you want it to be in the genre of? Mindset, of business advice?
Whatever you like.
I'll do a couple of things. Uh, this is kind of looping it back around to like the first point of our conversation, but I think if you can truly find a way to, I think if you can truly find a way to find fulfillment, joy, and happiness from the things that you're doing on a daily basis, like it is completely irrelevant to the end destination. And this is way easier said than done because you can get so caught up in your head. But it's so amazing what happens from that, of being truly motivated, happy, inspired every single day by just being on the journey of things, rather than being like, I'm going to grind my face off right now. I'm going to be probably unhappy. But then once I get that house, once I get that car, once I get that future wife, then I'll be happy, because it's not true. Once you get those things, once you get money, it's just an embellishment of who you already are. So if you're a crappy person, it's going to embellish that more. If you're a very nice and generous person, it'll embellish that more. So that's a huge thing about money. And then really, you only fail if you quit. Like literally, you only fail if you quit. Any single person listening, any single person has the capability, I believe, to be an entrepreneur. Some people definitely have more skill sets than others in terms of entrepreneurship, and some people might be better at within a company. But every single person has the capability of at least being a decent entrepreneur. And you only lose in entrepreneurship, and you only lose in business, you only lose in life if you quit. Like the goal is to keep going. The goal is to be healthy so you can keep living. The goal is to the journey that I was talking about. So those are some takeaways.
Awesome. That's very great.
Mhm.
Take a look. So where can people learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah. So best place would just be my YouTube channel at Luke Lentz. Yeah.
Awesome.
I've been posting some great mindset tips on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me for this episode. I'm glad you shared your story, especially you start at a very young age, like 16. That's very impressive. In general, people generally start thinking about businesses maybe when they are like when we pass 30 or something in general, I think, or 20, something like that. So that's very important. And you shared with us an amazing thing that about CTS, which is specifically important actually, and for anyone actually to apply. I'm glad that you kind of revealed this one because we do it in public, but it actually should be specifically for each individual because each individual is specific and each one has specific certain needs. So you might have certain CTAs, so you would put each one in their, let's say, bracket or place. And this way you can grow your business and get more sales and have more impact on other businesses and people. So thank you for joining me for this episode.
Thanks for having me here. Hope everybody got value. Appreciate it.